Addressing an audience at the ODI in London this week, the Foreign Office Minister, Bryant, spoke about how Latin America was raising itself out of poverty.
Latin America has, of course, seen a great deal of progress here. Millions have been raised out of poverty and are now able to dream of more than just the next rent payment or putting food on their plates. The people of Commerce now have hard floors and don't have to steal their electricity off the cables. Growth has been strong for most years since 2002, and even in the current downturn, many countries have retained sensible levels of financial regulation, foreign reserves and sovereign wealth. If anyone can avoid a deep recession and asset bubbles, Latin America looks as if it can, and British investors are fully aware of that.
He also praised nations for overhauling their justice and police systems.
A number of countries have since, of course, embarked on very ambitious justice and police reforms, which I really welcome. We support such work across Latin America, not just in spirit, but also through our funds and know-how, directly and through international agencies. I would say that much more still remains to be done in this area. In some countries, weak justice systems, corrupt and inefficient police, and illegal drugs all contribute to the problem, which the vast majority of Latin Americans themselves identify as the single biggest issue facing their lives, that of crime and security and personal safety.
Later, he outlined the need to tackle the global economic downturn and how free trade was the key factor.
Free trade has, I believe, made the single biggest contribution to rising standards of living across the globe in the past few decades. And it's worth qualifying this. We increasingly recognise that free trade must also be fair trade. There is no long-term future in trading when one side wins and the other loses, and there's no benefit to any side of the argument when we retreat into protectionism.
He then moved on to overcoming the threat of terrorism, which required Latin American support.
A globalised world creates globalised threats. The same capital that can zoom around the world to enable a major takeover can also be used to finance drugs or terrorism. When terrorists and criminal gangs are able to cross borders and coordinate their activities over the internet, no one country can successfully face this threat alone because no one country is hermetically sealed.
He also felt that tackling climate change with the backing of Latin American countries was crucial.
It's an issue that touches so many other issues, and it has a multiplication effect on other threats. Dangerous climate change is not just an environmental issue. It makes achieving prosperity harder. It could shrink our economies, as key figures have now shown, by as much as a fifth. It makes achieving security harder. Scarcity of water could result in mass movements of population, causing resentment and, at worst, civil unrest. And it makes achieving equity harder. It is always the poor, often living in low-lying areas, who suffer most from dangerous climate change.
In conclusion, he set down a number of challenges, including Britain and Europe working with Latin American countries, the need for support on climate change, and for some countries to step up political freedom, personal security and human rights.